That is an enormous cost. It's about 50 billion, but it's also very imaginative. As we all know...
What is that? Sorry, imaginative. What do you mean by that?
But it's not the kind of thinking you get from the others, because, because they stick with orthodoxy. One of the big problems we've got is we have more and more people, young people too, living off welfare. And it's costing us over £100 billion a year. What we want to do, and there's a trap here, you see. You're on benefits, you go back to work, you work more than 16 hours a week, the tax kicks in, you may as well stay on benefits. There is a terrible trap.
So hence the rationale to raise the tax.
Nigel Farage entered the BBC studio, and from the very first second, it was obvious the presenters had a single goal. This wasn't going to be a casual conversation. Their aim was to unsettle him, catch him off guard, and paint him in a negative light. But here's what made the moment remarkable. Farage didn't just hold his ground. He seized full control of the dialogue. Every question, no matter how tricky or loaded, was met with clarity, precision, and unshakable confidence. There were no evasions, no political doublespeak, just facts delivered directly by Farage himself. It was like watching a master at work, while those attempting to challenge him struggled to keep up. British politics rarely offers moments like this. And if you want more, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Dark Britain. Believe it or not, over 98% of viewers watch without hitting that follow button. Subscribing is completely free. So join the conversation today.
However, since the pandemic, a growing number of young people are saying they've got all sorts of psychological problems, but they're also not incentivized to go to work. We want to get people back to work.
I understand that. So the 50 billion, where will that money come from?
A lot of it will come from the racket that is going on. The government has been creating money, particularly during the pandemic. That money goes into the system, it goes into banks, the banks lodge it with the Bank of England, the Bank of England pay them interest on it. It's a racket, it's a racket. Well, and an increasing number of economists and academics say that alone could save between 35 and 40 billion pounds a year.
So,
I wasn't in charge. If I'd been given responsibility for making Brexit happen, it would have been very different.
But that's an easy get out. That's a bit like where you are now in Reform, where you're saying, I'm not in charge.
In 2019, right, in the general election, I stood aside in over 300 seats to give Boris Johnson a free run, to get Brexit over the line and to deliver the promises that he made. The reason on migration that Brexit has failed in the eyes of many people is because the Conservative Party haven't delivered. But be in no doubt, we are in charge of these things. Brexit gives us self-government. That doesn't guarantee success, but it does mean we're in charge.
And that, we've spoken to the IFS, or taken a look at the IFS, looking at your proposals for changing the Bank of England's function. And that is a very difficult and long process. That is very technical. That would not happen immediately.
Well, no other central bank in the world does this. This is a complete racket with the banks. And interestingly, Paul Tucker, a former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, fully endorses our plan, as do a growing number of economists. But look, I'm going to launch, and by the way, I won't call it a manifesto, because the word association with manifesto is lie. I'm going to launch our contract on Monday, where I'll lay out all of the costings of our plans. All I can tell you is what we're doing is bold.
Opinion polls are now revealing a remarkable trend. Support for the Reformist Party is climbing steadily across the UK, and in certain regions, it's even overtaking the Labour Party. This isn't merely a reaction against traditional politics, it's a genuine movement. With Nigel Farage at the helm, his message strikes a chord with voters who feel abandoned by the established political class, creating a connection that feels both personal and powerful. Farage's vision for leadership is no longer a distant idea. It's rapidly taking shape before the public's eyes. His decisive stances on critical issues, especially immigration and national reform, are resonating with a disillusioned electorate hungry for clarity and action. In a turbulent political landscape, he emerges as a voice of reason. With every interview, rally, and public statement, the notion of Farage as Prime Minister moves from fantasy to credible possibility. If this momentum holds, he won't just guide a movement. He could very well lead the nation itself, leaving traditional parties scrambling to respond to a political upheaval they never anticipated.
I wasn't in charge. If I'd been given responsibility for making Brexit happen, it would have been very different.
But that's an easy get out. That's a bit like where you are now in Reform, where you're saying, I'm not in charge.
In 2019, right, in the general election, I stood aside in over 300 seats to give Boris Johnson a free run, to get Brexit over the line and to deliver the promises that he made. The reason on migration that Brexit has failed in the eyes of many people is because the Conservative Party haven't delivered. But be in no doubt, we are in charge of these things. Brexit gives us self-government. That doesn't guarantee success, but it does mean we're in charge.
Here's where it gets truly fascinating. The more pressure they piled on, the calmer he became. Every attempt to provoke him only seemed to strengthen his composure. His answers grew sharper, his tone steadier. No hesitation, no deflection, just direct, confident statements that cut straight to the point. By the time the program ended, their effort to undermine him had completely backfired. Viewers couldn't ignore what they'd just witnessed. A man utterly unshaken under fire. It left many wondering, could this be the kind of leadership Britain actually needs? Because in a political world filled with rehearsed lines and nervous spin, someone who thrives under pressure stands out instantly. Farage doesn't just handle interviews, he commands them. He connects with people not through theatrics, but through authenticity and conviction. That's exactly why Reform UK, the party he leads, is experiencing a surge unlike anything the establishment expected. And this isn't political gossip. It's measurable momentum. Membership is climbing fast, with reports indicating the numbers may now even surpass those of the Conservatives. It's a shift few predicted, and one that Britain can no longer ignore.
We've spoken to the IFS, or taken a look at the IFS, looking at your proposals for changing the Bank of England's function. And that is a very difficult and long process. That is very technical. That would not happen immediately.
Well, no other central bank in the world does this. This is a complete racket with the banks. And interestingly, Paul Tucker, a former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, fully endorses our plan, as do a growing number of economists. But look, I'm going to launch, and by the way, I won't call it a manifesto, because the word association with manifesto is lie. I'm going to launch our contract on Monday, where I'll lay out all of the costings of our plans. All I can tell you is what we're doing is bold and imaginative.
When Cathy Newman went head-to-head with Nigel Farage live on air, it was immediately clear she'd come armed and ready, determined to press him with tough, pointed questions. But Farage was more than prepared for the challenge. From the very first exchange, he handled each inquiry with precision and composure, turning every attempted trap into an opportunity to reinforce his point. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. His calm tone, measured delivery, and unmistakable confidence made it impossible to shake him. The momentum began to shift when Newman confronted him with immigration figures, challenging the accuracy of his claims. Yet rather than waver, Farage stood firm. He methodically explained his data, defended his reasoning, and refused to yield an inch. By the time the interview wrapped up, Newman's irritation was plain to see. Farage had not only countered every attack, he had done so with composure and strength that left the audience genuinely impressed. It was a masterclass in resilience, a moment that once again demonstrated why he remains one of the most unflappable voices in British politics.
And you must recognize this, given what you previously said about how few MPs, even you, think you will get relative to the Parliament. It could be a big jump for you as a party, but relative to the Parliament.
Well, we'll see.
It gives you a freedom to say stuff, doesn't it? That you're not going to have to back this up and say, we couldn't do it.
What I'm saying is this. We have a Labour Party that's won already. The election is over. We all know that. Your viewers all know that. Their thinking on economics, on all of the key issues of our lives, is actually remarkably similar to the Conservative Party. I'm arguing that for democracy to work, governments need to be challenged. And
let's talk about immigration. While most politicians sidestep the subject or hide behind vague rhetoric, Farage faces it directly. No hesitation, no pretense. He doesn't just identify the challenges, he backs every claim with hard evidence, setting himself apart in a political climate where genuine courage is increasingly scarce. That fearless honesty grabs attention and instills confidence in those searching for real leadership. But it's not only his politics, it's his presence. Farage communicates with a clarity and conviction that makes every word feel authentic. Even his critics admit they know exactly where he stands. That transparency has earned him credibility among voters exhausted by hollow promises and recycled slogans from the establishment. To his supporters, Farage isn't another career politician. He's someone who listens, who understands their frustrations, and who genuinely wants to fix what's gone wrong. He reaches out to people across the spectrum, from lifelong Conservatives to disenchanted Labour voters, bridging divides others refuse to acknowledge. His ability to connect, to listen, and to speak plainly has made him more than a political voice. He's become a spokesman for the people themselves.
A far better position to do that than either Ed Davey from the Lib Dems, and Rishi Sunak won't be there, but the Tories are so divided, they don't stand for anything. This is about, I mean, look, we are completely in the grip of big corporate businesses. That's who the politicians listen to. I know that from 20 years in the European Parliament. There are 5.5 million people out there, men and women, running small businesses, acting as sole traders, that frankly are having the most difficult time. I'm on their side and I'll fight for them.
Farage doesn't just share opinions, he lays out a powerful vision for the future. For a nation desperate for direction, his message is becoming impossible to dismiss. During his BBC interview, Nigel Farage spoke with striking boldness, fearlessly addressing the issues that truly resonate with ordinary people. He unveiled statistics that left the audience silent, each number marking another migrant crossing into the UK. The moment was electric, a reality check that clearly rattled Moon, who quickly fired back, accusing Farage of exaggeration or fabrication. But Farage, as always, stayed composed. He didn't flinch or falter. Instead, he doubled down, citing official government data and credible reports to solidify his claims with authority. This wasn't a mere on-air disagreement, it was a gripping exchange of principles and passion. Farage framed the issue as a matter of national urgency, while Mooney questioned the evidence and intent behind his words. Yet through the tension, one truth stood out. These are not abstract policy debates. They cut deep into the heart of public concern, reminding everyone just how high the stakes have become.
Front page of Reform website as it stands. And I know it's not a manifesto at this stage. I'm not quite sure. Do you call it a pledge? I can't remember.
No, a contract.
A contract.
This is what we were campaigning
The contract. It says you'll set out your reforms in the first 100 days, is what it says. And you then go to say it's produced with advice from independent economists, think tanks and advisors. And a moment ago you said you're not about conformity. That just sounds like everybody else. Every other political party would say, we talk to independent advisors, we talk to think tanks. You just sound like everyone else.
I've been called many things over the years, but not like everybody else.
Well, no, I'm
not.
quoting from from Reform. That's what you said. It doesn't sound radical. That just sounds like you do the same as other people. You talk to think tanks.
I've just outlined some very radical proposals. Equally, we don't think anybody should pay inheritance tax until the estate is worth £2 million. We want to lift the VAT threshold to help small businesses. I promise you, what's coming on Monday is very, very different.
The audience couldn't help but sense a sudden shift in energy. What started as a relaxed exchange quickly transformed into a thrilling display of confidence under pressure. Farage didn't just answer, he seized control of the entire discussion. In a matter of seconds, the tone changed. Moon's composure began to falter, while the crowd watched in stunned silence. This wasn't just another broadcast. It was a defining moment, one that showcased exactly why Farage's influence continues to grow. He doesn't simply argue his case, he owns the room. That commanding presence forces people to rethink his position as a national figure. Farage embodies a rare clarity that distinguishes him from typical politicians. He speaks plainly and purposefully, cutting through the noise with precision. There's no sugarcoating, no empty rhetoric, just firm conviction. Whether tackling immigration, security, or Britain's economic future, his focus remains unwavering. It's this honesty and resolve that earn him respect and make his voice impossible to ignore.